This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
By now, we've talked about proximity. We've talked about grooming, two angles that make you question how Richard Allen became the focal point at all. But this last thread, this one pulls us straight into territory that's harder to wave away. The so-called Odinism theory. It starts with something most of us would have missed entirely, the way sticks and branches were arranged on the victims' bodies. Not just tossed on to conceal them, but placed deliberately in patterns that experts say resemble Norse pagan runes. I know it sounds crazy. I thought it sounded insane the first time I heard it, and then I started looking into it. And then, oh God, this seems to make sense. There's people who are into this stuff right there, connected to the girls. The FBI noticed it. Ritual crime specialists noticed it. Even casual observers saw it and saw it didn't look random. But the court? The investigators? Nick McClellan in his slick-backed LA Gear hair? Do they still sell LA Gear, Nick? Or is this just like a big bulk product that you bought back in the day and you just got frickin' cupboards of it? Is it still good after all those years? I suppose you could be buying some new product. They still sell hair gel. Whatever it is, don't go out in the cold. I used to put hair gel in my hair when I was in high school, when I had hair in Wisconsin and go up for the bus. It freezes. It can actually break off. You don't want what you have left to break off. Trust me, you don't. Just go bald. It's okay. It's a good look. I like it. It might serve you well too. Anyway, enough about the LA Gear. In court, this detail never saw daylight. Enter Brad Holder, a local man whose connection to this case isn't abstract. His son dated one of the victims. His social media contained images of young women posed on the ground with stick formations, eerily similar to what was allegedly found at the crime scene. My mind was blown when I saw these guys. It's literally like reenactment shots of the murder scene. It's nuts. Why? Why would you post this? Posted just days after the murder. With a cryptic message. Your real ones don't judge you. They help you move the body and never speak of it again. Who the hell says that when two little girls in your community are murdered, found dead with stick ruins on their bodies in the woods? And you're posting this stuff on your Facebook page? And you have nothing to do with any of this? That's quite a coincidence. Pair that with rune imagery on his own hand. Captions about cutting runes, and the parallels stop feeling a little coincidental. But again, never been charged with anything. He is innocent. Until proven guilty. But again, never been charged. So we're not even there. These are just observations of things he put out into the ether that make us go, huh? And yet, like Logan and Klein before him, none of it made it to the jury. The state dismissed the Odinism angle as speculative. The judge barred it entirely. And Holder? Never charged, never cross-examined, never even named in front of the people deciding Allen's fate. Now, you can argue that the ritual theories can be sensationalized, and yeah, you can argue that symbolic evidence is open to interpretation, but you can't argue that the similarities between those online posts and the alleged crime scene arrangements aren't at least worth a closer look, especially when they're tied to someone with a direct link to one of the victims. The hell is going on in Delphi? So here we are. 3 alternative suspects, not all of them ever named as alternative suspects. 3 wildly different profiles, and a jury that never heard about any one of them. Which begs the question, how can we call a verdict just when the trial was built on a version of events with this much redacted? Carol Hughes joining me to discuss. Let's dig into it. There's stick arrangements. There's ruins, is what one would call it, that were placed on the bodies of these girls in very strategic ways. Now, to the average observer, you go, why it wasn't like, let's put a bunch of brush over the bodies so nobody finds them. This wasn't
Yeah, it
that.
was not that.
It was just sticks in a very specific way.
Deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, deliberately.
Deliberate way. I think that's a good way of saying it. And it looks like it's ritualistic in some way, shape, or form. The states even initially, the FBI is looking at this going, there might be something to this. There's experts that look at it and go, without a doubt, this was some sort of a ritualistic killing. There's no reason for sticks to be placed or branches to be placed on these bodies in this sort of way. And the shapes that they form Nordic type symbols of Odinism. So there's that. And then, it turns out there's a guy in town named Brad Holder. And Holder has an affinity for taking pictures like this of young women on the ground with ruins, with the sticks on them, living children, mind you, but taking pictures of this and posting them on the internet.
Yeah, that was strange. And the fact that they didn't even keep the sticks as evidence. Mm-hmm. Like, I guess they just were like, this is nothing. But to me, there's a reason that they put the sticks were deliberately placed there. And this investigation just totally didn't care about that.
No, it was
There's a reason why the sticks were placed there. There could be DNA on these sticks.
They didn't test it for that.
Was.
Yeah.
But I'm going to guess, just threw them to the side. And who knows what ended up happening to them. But they did not collect them as evidence.
Yeah. Let me... I want to walk you through just kind of everything here with Holder, because obviously he's innocent. He's never been charged with a crime, so that's a fact. But here's some facts. Here's some other facts that look a little bit bizarre. In a 136-page court filing, Ellen's defense points that the Delphi murders may have been a ritualistic sacrifice with connections to the Norse pagan beliefs of Odinism. Brad Holder, he was named among several Odinists allegedly linked to the crime scene. Among others, Elvis Fields and several others, Johnny Messer and Patrick Westphal and Ron Abrams. I believe one of them spoke in the documentary and talked about this. And I'm in no way saying that all these people had anything to do with these killings, okay? I'm just pointing out what we know, know as facts.
They could be potential suspects.
Of the involvement here, mainly pointing at the accusations that have been fielded against Brad Holder. They allege these links were recklessly ignored by prosecutors. So what are we talking about? We got the runes made of sticks. Defense claims that the crime scene featured runic patterns made from sticks placed on the victim, citing them as ritual markings. And if you look it up, it's there. Brad Holder's son, by the way, dated one of the victims, Abby.
Oh.
And Holder's social media mirrored these elements, featuring ruins, images echoing body positioning, and symbols that were not public at the time. Why are you taking pictures of children laid out in the position of the victims with the sticks, the ruins on them, and posting them on your Facebook page? And then making comments. On February 17th, 2017, just days after the murder, Holder is posting on his Facebook page, your real, quote, ones don't judge you or ask a bunch of questions. They help you move the body and never speak of it again. This in tandem with the pictures.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. That's not weird or suspicious or anything like that. It must be the guy at CBS that has nothing to do with this, who literally raised his hand and said, "Can I help?" That's from the Murder Sheet podcast, that little piece there. Then the runic imagery on his Facebook page. Holder posted the image of a hand with a runic symbol drawn on it. The defense labeled it as the Hengel rune, which is tied to Odinism. However, commentary on Holder's post depicted it as the runes Gibo, or X, and the Isla, which is a single vertical line, supposed symbols representing gifts being received, which Holder claimed he had been getting a lot of lately. Again, that's from the Murder Sheet podcast. And yeah, The stick cutting. Facebook post supposedly by Holder depicted someone, possibly Westfall, cutting a tree branch with Holder commenting, "Cutting ruins." Defense contends that it aligns with the sawed branch found at the scene, implying ritualistic intent. Again, the jury saw none of it.
Yeah. And I thought that was quite compelling. And they had I don't remember her name, but they did have an expert on that sort of thing.
They did.
Talking about it. Because there was a reason they were placed where they were. They knew that they had been moved and put into position, in a certain position, with these sticks placed on them. They know that. So here's someone who is doing this same sort of weird stick thing. And, it's like, I found that to be very compelling.
This is an insane case. And there's many layers to it.
There's 3 different possibilities that actually seem more valid and more likely than Richard Allen.
And the police will say, well, we vetted all that. We went through all of it. We didn't find anything. Did you? How close did you look? Because you seem kind of shocked by a lot of these things that are being brought out into the public.
It kind of seemed to me like once they got their eyes on Richard Allen, because it took them quite a while. They didn't come up with anything to connect him to that until they saw the tip, and I'm using air quotes, that he had been there that day.
Yeah.
And he's got a blue jacket.
And who doesn't have a Carhartt jacket in Indiana?
Right.
Look, this is just normal attire for there's nothing really that compelling about any of those things.
So to me, there was no more that tied him to that crime than that.
There isn't anything that ties him to the crime other than the bullet, which, again, I think can be explained.
Possibly, but the bullet doesn't make a whole lot of sense at the crime scene.
No, it doesn't at all.
Because why do you have a gun with you that you've obviously, in maybe a threatening manner, a bullet is, I don't know the proper term here, I'm not a gun owner, but the bullet comes out, but it's not been shot.
Unspent.
Yes. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
So why do that with your gun if you're just going to turn around and stab him?
Here's the thing.
That made no sense.
Here's the other thing. When they were investigating this, they opened it up and they had all the police wandering and traipsing through this, fairly touchy crime scene where you don't know where the evidence is. It's in the woods. So the less people in that scene, the better. You got 30-some people trampling around there. It's been tampered with. It's not a clean crime scene anymore. 30-some people wandering around there with guns, handguns that could very easily take the very bullet that was found on the ground. And they find this way later. This bullet is found after all of those police are wandering around the scene. And it isn't until several years later where suddenly the markings come into play. And again, it's after they confiscate Richard Allen's gun that suddenly this bullet has these markings on. And that's all they have. That is literally all they have. Nothing else.
No, I think that people will say, and including the investigators, that he confessed to it.
There's that.
I didn't find a lot of credibility to that because there are a lot of cases of people confessing to crimes in a number of different ways. It could be lack of sleep. They've been interrogating them for hours.
Oh, this is beyond that.
And yeah, this goes beyond that sort of thing. This is months in solitary confinement.
This is more than a year.
And you look at him, he doesn't look okay.
He's not okay.
He's not.
Even the psychologist is like, he's suffering from psychosis. Well, let's take it.
In his mind, I think anything he confesses to or admits to, I don't find credible because I think he's been held in such extreme conditions. Now, imagine if he had nothing to do with this crime and he is all of a sudden arrested and put in solitary confinement. How would you end up after a year?
Which is what happened. And you know what? That's not how this typically works. When you're arrested, you don't go to solitary confinement. You're in the county jail. They moved him to a prison and put him in a little room in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day for more than a year. They denied him access to his attorneys. And when he did have access to his attorneys, it was through a little hole in a door. This is a man not convicted of a crime in the United States.
Yeah.
Yet this is how it went. Because, well, he's charged with it. So, look the other way. It's not I trust them. They wear blue. So he's literally tortured for more than a year.
Yeah.
He starts eating his poop, running into the wall head first. And he's talking about that he killed his grandchildren. He has no grandchildren. He went mad. And then they said, you know what? Let's get that confession. So they get him to confess in a very bizarre way. It sounds nothing like the man. And then on a sheet of paper, he confesses, and it looks like you're playing like something of like on Romper Room or Picture Page with Bill Cosby in 1979. If you remember Picture Page, makes noise and they walk when it walks around, or it writes on the TV. That was good times before we knew what Bill Cosby was. And it looks insane. It looks like it's the work of a kindergartner. I killed it's like, it looks nuts, because it is nuts. They drove the man insane, got their confession and said, see, he confessed. Look at us. Delphi PD #1, bitch. This means you. You get more hair gel. You get more hair gel. Get excited, Nick.
Have enough.
You're the super prosecutor. More LA gear for you. You got him. And according to McClelland and according to Delphi, that's how you catch a killer. You torture them for a year, keep telling them that they did this crime that they did not do. Tell them how like their family's going to be destroyed and all this, and how the best thing you can do is to do this for them. And eventually you get the person to go nuts, not crack, but go nuts and say crazy things. Because if you watch all of the interrogation, and go back and do this, if you're enraged like me about this case, go, and we've provided it. It's on our Facebook or on our YouTube channel. You can watch all of the interrogations before he confesses to anything, when he's still just an innocent man who's coming into the police station to answer questions. And you can see how they slowly railroad him and slowly try to break him down, and he does not break. It's like, I didn't do this. I know exactly what you're doing here. And then you can watch as the months go by, how he slowly deteriorates. And at one point in those calls, he says, look, I'll say whatever I need to for the better, to keep you safe, honey. And so you can live your life, and this doesn't have to destroy your life too. He says, I'll say whatever I need to. He's willing to sacrifice himself for the betterment of his wife. And his wife speaks out in that new documentary, Kathy, on Hulu. And I think this is the first time she's spoken out. And really watching her and seeing the hell that she's gone through and been dragged through as well.
My heart.
Because of these monsters in Delphi. Because of you, Nick McClelland. Because yes, it goes back onto your ass.
I just feel like having this crime, a horrific crime, to young innocent girls brutally murdered, they needed to find and arrest and convict somebody.
Yes. And at the end of the day, that's what happened.
They found this guy there. And so you take this to the jury without all of the other things that we just talked about. And I'd be interested to know if any of the people in the jury watch this documentary, and if now they're like, wait a minute, we didn't know all this shit.
I'd be very curious.
But to me, I feel like they had to find somebody. And so what if this man has to give up his life?
They didn't care.
They don't care.
They get to be.
What they presented to the jury between this bullet, he admitted to being there. Mm-hmm. He has this exact same outfit. And
he doesn't have the exact same outfit. He has a similar.
Well, but I think they say, because they took a picture of the blue jacket, and it looks similar to that.
I'd say Ron Logan has a closer costume.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't hear it.
But the jury doesn't know about Ron Logan.
Yep.
So they're just showing them that, look,
Yeah.
Richard has this outfit.
So
He's got the blue jacket. We found it. There's video of this car leaving. That looks like his car. I don't know that it does. But at a distance, it could be a few different cars. But his car was similar to that. So I think when you don't show them anything else, this is what they have to go on. And then it ends with he admitted to being there and he confessed. There you go. That's your guy.
I agree.
And, they have to go back. And I'm assuming, I don't remember now, they did seat the jury from people in Delphi or locally, right? They didn't move the trial.
No.
So to me, they have to go back into the community. How do you go back into the community and go, it wasn't him?
And you had
then
a closed...
Is everybody going to railroad you and run you out of town?
You had a closed-door trial, no audio, no video, no public anything. There was little to no accountability. You had every motion that should have been allowed into this, all these different pieces of evidence that should have been allowed into this, all denied by the judge at every turn. The judge, for her part, like early on. Sorry, my dog was eating cord, so I had to tell her to stop for a moment and mute my mic. She's already destroyed a few HDMI cables here. Not at this moment, but how this happened, how you have it all go down. Yeah, you present it to a jury this way, they're going to see it that way. I don't blame the jury. The jury did what they were presented with, but what was held back and why it was held back and what onus the judge had, what Gull had, I don't know. I don't know what her predisposition was for taking away Richard Allen's rights to a fair trial were. I don't get it. I do not.
I don't
and then
think
she'll say I wasn't.
cared about Richard Allen's rights.
No. I just don't know why she. I don't know. It points to there's some web here going on where a lot of these folks are interconnected in this area, and I don't know that Gull is. I think Gull's just bullheaded, in my opinion, and just was like, we're just going to push this thing through and be done. That's kind of my thoughts. I don't know. I don't know her, so that's just my conjecture. And I think she was relying on the investigators to be honest, to be bringing actual information and real evidence and not ignoring key pieces of evidence or lying by omission to the courts and to the jury and to the public. But they did.
Yeah.
They lied by omission so many ways. And then said, here's what it is. That's the Delphi case. It's a big deal. If you want to get enraged about anything, get enraged about this. A bitch who gets super drunk and runs over her boyfriend, come on, let's move on from that. We know what happened there, or we think we do, or whatever the jury thought, but let's move on. Let's move on to this because this is insane. And there's so much evidence here pointing to an innocent man being put away for the rest of his life.
And they do have an appeal.
They're going to try to get an appeal
now, correct?
Well, it's the defense has issued their statement to the court, to the Supreme Court. The prosecution has now issued their rebuttal, saying it's whatever they say is not accurate. And then we get a chance then for the defense to give their rebut, and then it goes to oral arguments in 2026, and we'll see where it goes from there. This is a crazy, crazy story. And at the end of the day, the scary and the really sad part about this is I don't know that even if this is all successful at some point in time, Richard Allen gets acquitted, Richard Allen gets a new trial, they find him not guilty or whatever, and he's out. This is such a damaged man.
Oh, agreed. I
feel like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know Richard Allen personally by any means. I don't know Kathy Allen. I know Bob knows Kathy a bit. And Bob went to the trial every day and reported it on it for us. But I don't know what you're going to get out of there at someday. Are you going to get a guy that literally needs to be like institutionalized for the rest of his life for the damage that has been done to him?
Yeah. And
I don't
does
know.
anybody care?
I don't know that he survives by the time this is done. It's going to take years. And he didn't have, he seemed to break down and lose sanity pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And he's back in solitary. So I don't know what you're dealing with right now. I've been like thinking like, can I go visit him? It's not that far. It's about an hour and a half for a drive for me to go over there and check this out.
And who knows if they'd even
If I could even do it. Yeah. It's insane. This whole damn thing is insane.
To me, if you have this horrific case with these two innocent girls being horrifically murdered, if it was my loved one, the last thing I would want is the wrong person paying for that crime.
Yeah.
And the person who did it is still out there, or maybe is already dead.
And look, that's what I feel. There is a reason.
Is it justice? It's not justice if the wrong person's behind bars.
And that's where I feel the victims' families need to start speaking up.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to start realizing you were not served. You deserve better. Just because these idiots told you they found their guy, they're wrong. Now, it may feel easier to sleep at night and keep telling yourself it over and over, but it doesn't seem to be accurate. Well, these people say it is great. I mean, if you can just live your life like that, great. But at the same point, keep in mind there's a good chance you've ruined this other person's life.
And how does that feel?
How does that feel? Now, I'm not out to attack these families. Like they've gone through enough shit.
I can't even wrap my brain around what they've gone through.
Your voice matters in this. And it doesn't exclude you from looking at reality and facts. And if you're being fed a line of bullshit, they're saying this is the guy who killed your kids, and the pieces just don't add up, then it's also on you to say, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I don't believe you, and here's why. They're in a horrible place, but I really feel like the only way anything is going to get any sort of traction in Delphi is if these families start turning against Delphi. And they start saying, you know what? We don't believe you anymore. We looked at this closer. We think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And whoa, they don't want that. That's for sure. But I don't know what else is going to get it, because public outrage hasn't done a lot. It's keeping this thing going. It's keeping this being talked about. Thank God. But I really think you need some people close to this who even early on in those docs had said, I considered this for a moment. Go back and consider it more.
Mm-hmm. You have to wonder with people in Delphi, the jury, these families, if they watch this documentary and then they start questioning it the way you and I are.
And here's the reality, I think, of a lot of it. This is all very close to home. They don't want to relive this. They're probably not watching the documentary. They don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. They don't want to keep being reminded of it. When there's shit that's traumatizing and stuff, I know I don't want to keep watching more about it. I didn't want to keep watching really 9/11 documentaries forever. Yeah. It's like they come out like, well, this is really interesting. I lived there. I lived it. I remember the time. I remember the hell. I wasn't there, but I lived that time. I don't need the documentaries to keep showing me what a fucking horrible time that was.
Yeah.
So I get why people aren't going to want to consume it, and really, because they had to deal with this for so long, that trauma. So to have to go and regurgitate it and come back and see, like, God, that's hell. So I feel horrible for those families, but I would encourage, take a moment, because there is still some good that can be done here. And that good is actually finding or naming the person who killed your kids and getting the guy who didn't his life back.
Yeah.
The Odinism theory may be the most polarizing piece of this case. I understand. I thought it was nuts too. But even if you strip away the ritual angle entirely, what's left is still deeply troubling. A man connected to one of the victims by family, a series of posts and images that mirror key details from a crime scene that occurred days earlier. And not just like, I'm dead and there's blood. Children on the ground with the stick runes placed on top of them, very similar to how they were on the girls. And by the way, no one in the public knew any of this yet. Nothing to see here, guys. Look the other way. We got our guy. Thank you, Nick. You are a winner, aren't you? The court process that made sure none of it reached the people whose job it was to weigh guilt and innocence. In isolation, maybe you can dismiss it as coincidence, but nothing about this case exists in isolation. Logan's property, Klein's grooming, Holder's imagery, each of these threads is strong enough to pull on, and yet all of them were cut out of the official story. And when you remove that much from the record, you're not just omitting extra information, you're erasing context. You're removing the very doubts that could change a verdict. That is not justice, that's curation. And it's a dangerous precedent, because if you can edit the story this heavily and still call it a fair trial, then fair doesn't mean what we think it does. And now Richard Allen sits in an Oklahoma prison, far from his family and legal team, waiting for an appeal that won't be heard until 2026. By then, the public's attention, it will continue to shift. The outrage, it's already cooled since the trial. But there's a handful of us that will continue to raise your flag, Richard. There's a handful of us that are not going to let this die, because this is insane. And Kathy, you deserve this. And Richard, your daughter, who's an adult, deserves this. You deserve this. Those girls, Libby and Abby, they deserve this, because they don't deserve to have a man who did nothing to do with their death be put away for the rest of his life, while the real people or person who did this can just live free. Or maybe he's already dead. The outrage is here, and it needs to get stronger. Here's what should keep you awake at night. If they can do this in this case, this publicly, imagine what happened to the ones that no one's watching. Imagine how many times justice has been delivered with half the picture hidden. And this is just the stuff we found out about, the stuff that's leaked out. And that's why cases like this can't just fade, because the rest, the real test here isn't whether Richard Allen walks free. It's whether we demand to see the whole damn story before deciding if he should be in that cell at all. So the question we leave, did Allen do it? It's not that. It's, do you trust the version of events you were allowed to hear? Allowed to hear. Because after hearing all this, if you're a jury member that was on this jury and you're watching this now, do you think you made the right choice? Do you think they were right to you? Those jury members deserve a new trial, because you were bamboozled. You were not given a full deck to play with. After hearing all this, you'd be a fool not to wonder what else you weren't told. A damn fool to be wondering what else you weren't told. Jury, member of the public, anybody who gives a shit about justice. You would be a fool not to wonder what else you were not told. Tell me your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Or find us wherever you get podcasts. Same search, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Press subscribe. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. I would love to hear them. Okay? Until next time, I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.